B-Lab is a systematic change organization with a vision of an inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economic system for all people and the planet. B-Lab envisions this by providing companies with free standards and tools, enabling businesses to prove their social and environmental impact. We certify companies that demonstrate high social and environmental performance. We catalyze public policies, we amplify business as a force for good, and we drive communities and collective action. So most people and businesses probably know B-Lab from our B Corp certification and the BIA, which is the B Impact Assessment. The BIAs are free and confidential online assessment tool used to measure a company's social and environmental impacts. A business can become a B Corp by achieving a score of 80 points on the BIA and by passing our risk review. The BIA is divided into 5 impact areas that you can see here. So governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. As B-Lab believes that justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion is essential when building an inclusive economic system for all, we also recognize the importance of these topics within the business. So this is also reflected in this assessment tool, as you can see here. So within the BIA, there's a specific section on diversity, equity, and inclusion, as you see here on the slide. And these questions center around age, gender, ethnic, and racial diversity in the workforce, as well as in the supply chain. And it also includes questions around creating and managing inclusive work environments. So just as a side note, it's not so easy to become a B Corp. So imagine like more than 200,000 companies use the tool and only 5,000 companies have the B Corp certification, of which 200 in the Benelux. And one of the ways B Corps collectively work together in the B Corp community are our working groups or task forces. Within these working groups existing of B Corps, the group members collectively work together toward positive progress and find solutions for certain problems. So as I mentioned before, today's session is organized by our Benelux B Corp JEDI task force, which stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And this task force consists of the following 6 B Corps that you see here. So Green Jobs, Tony Chocolonely, Mud Jeans, Ace and Tate, Fee People, and Frontier. And within this group, we make space for conversations and resource sharing. We initiate campaigns and host events that center around JEDI. And the goal of this working group is to use our JEDI knowledge to create positive change in the Benelux B Corp community and also beyond that on the wider, broader business community. And that's also why we're here today, to talk about how to hire a diverse workforce and to hopefully inspire many of you to introduce the practices that we will share with you today into your own companies. So to set the tone for this webinar, we would like to tell you our approach to diversity and inclusion. As there are many definitions out there, we often experience some confusing around these words. So the definition we use to diversity is the difference between individuals that can lead to the perception that another person is different from them. This can be in a lot of different ways, such as cultural background, age, religion, economic status, etc. And then inclusion is the extent to which employees perceive that they are valued members of the team, which they experience through treatment that meets their needs for belonging and uniqueness. Having said that, we can move on to the introduction of today's recruitment journey and the speakers. As you know, this masterclass, we will talk about hiring a diverse workforce, and we do this by taking you all on a recruitment journey. So in this recruitment journey, we will highlight the best practices at those stages that you can see here. So we will talk about attracting candidates, the screening process, the selection process, and at last offer and hiring. However, I won't be the person sharing best practices today. So we invited 2 speakers, 2 B Corps, 2 Dutch B Corps. The first speaker I would like to introduce is Lucie. She's head of talent and people at Kiitos. Kiitos is a socially responsible software engineering company, building products and remote teams while addressing social equity. So linking back to the BIA, what I told you before, Kiitos scores very high on the section of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also, they are actually one of the highest scoring B Corps worldwide on the workers and employees section. So they are very strong in terms of gender, race, religion, and nationality diversity, and have already implemented many diversity and inclusion initiatives in their hiring practice. And I'm sure Lucie would love to tell you all about them today. Yeah, Lucie, maybe you can tell me why you think hiring a diverse workforce is important.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. Greetings from Prague, and thanks for having me. To me, actually, diversity in hiring means a lot. And I think in connection with the inclusion, it's really important to start hiring more diverse talent and bringing it to the companies. And a few reasons, maybe just to name, the diverse hiring definitely grows your talent pool. We all struggle a bit with finding candidates recently, so it's really nice to see that there are candidates, but we just don't see them yet. It also increases your team's range of skills, the talents, the experiences they are all bringing in. And also it creates more space for innovation and creativity. It was proven by many studies because it brings different opinions, different ideas, different thoughts. Yeah, and I'm also curious to hear what others think, what are the reasons, and we'll hopefully explore more during this masterclass today. So once again, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Lucie. I couldn't agree more. Also for our listeners today, maybe you can also post in the chat yourself why you think hiring a diverse workforce is important, or why it's important for your company. And yeah, while you are doing that, I will already introduce you to the second speaker, Maybritt, people hero at Chocolonely. So Tony Chocolonely is an impact company that produces and sells chocolate bars and fights for equality in the chocolate industry. They exist to make 100% slave-free the norm in chocolate. And Tony's has actually gone from a very Dutch small company to a very international company. So with that, and they're very curious, conscious about the fact that their practices also need to grow with that. They're very serious about diversity and inclusion, and actually are in the process now of figuring out how to make Tony's more diverse and inclusive. And I am sure Maybritt will give you some amazing insights on Tony's already implemented and coming diversity and inclusive initiatives. And then I'm gonna ask you the same question, Maybritt. Why is hiring a diverse workforce important for you?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Maybritt. Very happy to be here. I agree with all the reasons that Lucie gave a minute ago. But for me, it's also really about that there's so much talent around the globe that we don't know of yet. And that we need to give them a chance to participate in our world as well. And I think for me also having a more diverse workforce leads also to an evolving company culture, which in the end leads to achieving your goals. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you. So I just wanna, before we start getting into all the best practices of today, I would like to just make clear that recruitment might look like the first step to pay attention to when you want to be more diverse and inclusive in your company. However, this is far from true. An organization can have the greatest diversity and inclusive initiative in the recruitment process, but we as a working group believe that you can only get more diverse and inclusive if your current employees feel safe and included. So before looking at the recruitment process, I would advise companies to check in with their employees to see if they feel safe and included, because without inclusion in the base, you won't be able to attract diverse people. So, and on another note, we are all still learning in this topic, and there is definitely not a one size fits all. So what works for Tony's and Kiitos could be different than the best practices that work for your organization. So see this as an inspiration, but definitely not as the only truth. So having said that, I think we are ready to start with the recruitment journey. So let's get started with the first step of today's recruitment journey, which is attracting candidates. This step is all about employer branding, how to write your job vacancies, and how to make your vacancies accessible for a diverse crowd. Maybe Maybritt, you can tell me what Tony's approach is to be more diverse and inclusive within this process step?
Yeah, sure. But before I'm going to do that, let me just quickly share a bit about Tony's, what we're doing. Puck already gave a glimpse of this, but basically what we're existing is, like Brooke said, we are here to make all chocolate 100% slave-free the norm in the cocoa industry, because around the globe there are millions of smallholder farmers that grow cocoa, and there are billions of people like you and me who like to consume chocolate. And in the middle there's only a handful of chocolate companies that are actually producing and buying the cocoa beans and making that into delicious chocolate bars. And these big chocolate companies, they are paying a very low price for cocoa, which results in millions of farmers living in poverty. So let's quickly go to the numbers. So all cocoa, or 60% from all cocoa around the globe, is coming from Ghana and Ivory Coast. And there are around 2.5 million farmers around there who are living in poverty because people are not taking responsibility and paying a fair price for cocoa. So according to the latest studies of the Global Slavery Index, there are around 30,000 people victims of modern slavery, and 1.56 million children that are doing illegal child labor. And 95% of those children are doing really hazardous work. So these children, they are robbed from their future, from their dignity. They're being removed from their parents because they're working in other countries to produce cocoa out around there. And people are saying like, yeah, you can produce cocoa, you'll become a farmer yourself, etc. So they're just there are so much lies going on there, and these children are really robbed from their future. And that's why we're existing, because we're fighting every single day for equality within the cocoa industry to ensure that they can have a better life and make better decisions if it comes to farming and how to farm. So I think that is the main reason why we're existing. And I think also this is why we need to work more on diversity and inclusion, because that's really why we are being diverse and inclusive, because we are fighting for equality. And our story and our industry is a living proof of why more people need to do that. And as Tony's, we're paying a fair price for cocoa, so we like to do things differently, and that is not only internally or externally, but also internally as a company. And as Tony is an employer, we really like to do things differently. So, for example, we have a one-pager contract instead of an extensive employment contract. But we're also working on benefits, and we already have a few, for example, like puppy leave for the people that are not interested in having kids, but they do like to have a dog or a cat or a hamster, whatever you can think of. They can still have sort of maternity leave, but then for puppy or hamster, whatever you want. And our vision is really about being serious about people and let people feel included in the company. And because we know we do things differently, I think that's also what we are known for as a company. And our entire employer brand is also based on that. And I think because of our mission, because we like to do things differently, we have so many people who would like to work for Tony's that it's almost hard to filter out the persons that we need within Tony's. But for now, I just want to say that everyone is welcome at Tony's to apply, from classics to limited editions. We know the different flavors are making the world a better place and make life more inspiring. So yeah, at Tony's, we welcome everyone with equal enthusiasm, no matter where you're from, no matter the color, the age, the gender, nationality, you name it. But at least we're crazy about chocolate and serious about people. So I would like to welcome you to apply at Tony's if you see something that might suit you. That said, I'm also curious to hear how Lucie is attracting candidates.
Thanks, Maybritt. So let's look into some tips from Kiitos' side, and let's talk about how we actually think of attracting candidates. So Kiitos is a Dutch-Palestinian company. It was actually founded in Palestine. So our biggest hiring focus is still on Palestine and on the MENA region, also in order to fulfill our mission. And we actually had to be a bit creative, because at some point it seemed that we have no more potential candidates there. Our talent pool is drying out slowly. But at the beginning of this year, we actually started looking at things from different perspectives, and we tried a couple of things which we never thought about, and actually it worked out, and we were quite surprised. It's still working out, so it's nice to see that if you do something outside the box, it actually can work out. So now we actually use different tools that might seem even old school or inefficient here in Europe. We do advertising on Facebook. We are active on our Facebook social media. We also engage with people in Facebook groups because people are still active there and they still use this social media platform. Also, you can think of distributing printed leaflets at the universities and other areas where people are. You can see one of the leaflets we distributed and also some pictures from distributing it. And it can be also hosting physical events like roadshows or meetups in these areas. And we actually also found out that the locals are not super responsive to emails, so they don't go to their mailboxes every day, and we had to find them somewhere. So even during the hiring process, people stopped responding, and we actually started looking into different ways how to approach them. So it could be WhatsApp, it could be Messenger on Facebook or LinkedIn. It all worked much better than the traditional email, which we are so used to here in Europe. And also during the hiring process into our talent acceleration program, I will talk about it a bit later, we were even sending good old text messages to invite people for technical tests, which was one of the rounds to be hired into such a program. So by that, I just want to share that adapting to your potential candidates and current candidates makes the process much more inclusive for them, much more enjoyable. And it will also bring you a benefit of opening a totally new door to new, different talent pools you never thought about. So let's talk about 3 things we actually implemented in order to attract more candidates and more diverse talent. The first one is talent acceleration program we have. It's something which not only allows us to bring more diverse talent to Kiitos, and in this case, it's the university graduates, but it also has positive impact on the society and other companies which we cooperate with, because we help to lower the unemployment rate in the regions we operate within. So there's actually a huge opportunity in hiring graduates. Only in Palestine, there are 2,500 graduates of tech universities every year, and actually only 10% of them get a job within the first year after graduation, meaning a job in tech. They are unemployable for many reasons. It can be low level of English, it can be power skills and tech skills they are lacking. And that's why we've decided actually to design a program that solves this issue. And it also helps to land them the very first job. It started all as an internal program to get more talent into the company, into Kiitos, but it actually grew to something much bigger. So now TAP is a 12-week career accelerator. It's designed to unlock the potential and the opportunities for young graduates from overlooked regions. So it can be Palestine, the MENA region. And we are connecting them to the tech companies on the global market. So we partner with companies that are looking for diverse talent, and they also want to hire in an equitable way. And the program has 3 main pillars. So there's the mentorship in technical skills, English and power skills, which is provided by international mentors and teachers and coaches. There's a hands-on project, so the students can try how is it to work in an agile environment and experience the team dynamics and other essential things of working in a tech company. And the last but not least, really important one is financial support. So we give them a monthly stipend that is crucial for them to be able to attend such a program without actually missing the income. And all that mentioned actually helps and is more successful than hiring directly from universities, because talent comes with a backpack of useful tools and knowledge, which reduces the onboarding time and cost for their first employer. One thing I would love to also mention is that hiring youth means usually hiring for potential, because you never know how it will end up. People without any experience, professional experience, but there are a lot of benefits of that. It can be the flexibility, it can be the adaptability. They are very resilient. They bring new energy to the team. So there's also another benefit actually for the internal team, because you can engage your seniors and mid-years and show them that they can have impact directly on the young people coming into the company. They can mentor them, they can help them guide through their journey. So that's the talent acceleration program in a nutshell. And 2 more tips, maybe a bit easier to implement. So there's a referral program we have in place, and maybe you say like, yeah, we also have one, but you know, like we bring friends of our colleagues and there's a huge chance to actually end up with a homogeneous team, and how to actually build it so it's more inclusive. So what we specifically want to do is asking the team to refer more diverse talent. So do you know any woman who could join us? Do you know someone from your university studies? Do you know someone from abroad who was studying with you, for example, on some internship? Or do you know someone who is just, you know, like living somewhere where there are no opportunities, but he or she can join us because we are remote first? So all this actually can bring more diverse talent through the referral program. We also try to motivate people a part of bringing more diverse talent financially. So when we are looking for an urgent hire, which can be also for getting back to the ratio, the balance of the ratio of diversity, we offer a higher fee for that. And we also give gift cards to people. So any candidate who goes to the first round with the people team is actually referred, and the people who refer them get a gift card. So also it encourages people to refer more in general, but also refer people they would never think of. So that's the referral program and how to just tweak it a bit. And last tip would be a sourcing jam. So it's a company-wide sourcing event. You can organize it with your people team, and you can invite the whole company, show them how you do the sourcing, show them all the super cool tools you are using. And actually the tech geeks from the companies, they love it. They love to see that you are also a bit technical and you think about recruitment in this way. So you can show them this, teach them something new, and then you all sit down and you do the sourcing. And by that, you can actually access the hidden corners of LinkedIn and GitHub and all other platforms, because you just go into totally different networks of your colleagues, and it's also a super fun event. So we did it in my previous companies, and now we are also looking into organizing one for Kiitos in summer. So I hope to share some outcomes of that later this year. So these were the tips from my side. And if we go to the other slide, as no size fits all, and we already mentioned that these were only examples. And here are maybe some more generic steps you can actually take when thinking of how to attract a different audience. So number one would be definitely sitting down with your team and defining what diversity means to your organization, because it can mean something else to me and to Kiitos and to your company. So definitely think of where do you want to start, which groups you want to attract, and also if you are ready for actually bringing more diverse team talent to the company. The step number two would be getting to know your target group. So once you know who you want to attract, just have some interviews, have some chats with people from this target group to get to know them and understand what they are actually doing, where they go, what they think about, what they need in their workplaces. Number three would be going where the diverse talent is. I already mentioned that, doing roadshows, going to some places where they are, because if you still go to the same places, you will usually end up with the same people and no one else will actually appear in your talent pool. Number four would be getting creative, thinking outside of the box and experimenting. Don't be afraid to fail. You can do A/B testing, you can see what works better. And if it doesn't work out, you can just throw it away and try a different approach. We are still learning. There's a lot to explore, so you'll see what works for you specifically. Number five, very easy tip, inclusive job ads, and we might talk about it later, but just go and review your job ads and see if there are any biases or exclusionary words in there. You can just rewrite them, and it's the very first step you can actually do today. And a very tiny but powerful thing you can do also even today is to add a mention that you are an equal employer, of course, if it's true. And last but not least, measure and analyze. So anything you do, it's really important to have some metrics in place. Just look into your initiatives, what impact they actually bring. We in Kiitos have OKRs. One of them is also focused on hiring a diverse team and building an inclusive workplace. It's far from perfect, but at least it reminds us every day that we really need to focus on this aspect, and we just cannot bring tons of people inside, all of them being the same. So that would be from my side, and I believe now back to Book.
Okay, amazing. So we've already come to the end of the first step. I must say I've heard many great initiatives already, and I'm sure there's a lot of you already got some inspiration. I just want to say that there will be a lot more. So if you have questions already now or throughout when Maybritt and Lucie are presenting, just post them in the chat and we can have a look at them later. So yeah, let's move on to the next step, which is screening process. With the screening process, we mean the first next steps after the candidates have applied for the job and before you actually choose the candidates. So Maybritt, do you want to kick off again?
Of course. One thing that we always do before we start the entire recruitment process is having a strategy with the hiring manager. And in this meeting, we are going to determine the entire process which we're going to do for recruiting a role. So we're going through a few steps in that meeting. The first one is really get an understanding of the role. So really think about what is the main responsibility of this role. Why is that role there? then think about how does that role fit in the team. So, what is the role of that role within the team? And also think about then what is the added value of that role. Then second, we're going to talk about the skills, competencies and experiences and how you're going to assess these. So first, we are using an impact profile, so not a job description. Job description is really focused on what like the specific responsibilities are of that role, but we are using an impact profile in which we are defining the result areas that people need to work on. So it's then they're quite free on how to get to those results, but as long as they, of course, deliver. And in that, we also including a skill set of a max of 5 skills and competences to make sure you're focusing on the most important things during your screening. And then we're going to think about how you're going to assess these. So what we are doing right now is that we are using a personality assessment, which really focuses on characteristics from someone. And besides that, a motivational assessment, which really focuses on what is motivating people. And before we are going to post the role, we're going to have a look at these profiles and to discuss what is the most, or what is the ideal candidate profile look like. And based on that, we are going to compare those with the profiles and results of the candidates. Then we're going to talk about, okay, we have the candidates there. How many interviews are we going to do with them? What kind of interview question are we going to ask them? So we're really focusing on what is really urgent to know if someone is the right fit to this role and is going to add something to the role, to our culture, etc. And then we're also discussing how the panel should look like with interviews. And I think that's something you should really focus on to already have a diverse panel in place. So with us, that means that we are doing 2 to 3 interviews, and there can only be a max of 2 interviews in each interview. There should be at least 2 different genders, 2 different nationalities, different levels of seniority, but also persons should be there from different teams. So if we are recruiting for a position for our headquarters, then it should also be someone that is included from the same role, but then within another entity from Chocolonely. And the last step is then to just align on the entire process. When are we going to post the role? Where are we going to post the role? How long will the role be out there? And any other timeline thing you can think of. But something else that's really important to be aware of in your screening process is bias. So bias is literally everywhere. And if you have a brain, if you're human, then you're also having biases. And I think there's a lot of people that are not even aware of the biases that they have. So first thing that I would like to recommend to all of you, do an unconscious bias training with your team to really make people aware of the bias that they have. And there are many types of bias. So I've summed up here a few. I think that the ones that we know the most, and that's always applicable to us the most, intuition type of bias. So that's really about your gut feeling about someone. And the other one is similarity attraction, which is a bit like, oh, that person has a lot of similarities with me, you're like me, so yeah, I think you can be a good hire. But there are, like you see, tons of other biases, and it's really interesting to see what kind of bias you have and how that is influencing the quality of your hires. And I think we are in a position to reduce these biases. So an initiative that we are currently looking at is to say goodbye to resumes. So first, you can all start, of course, with writing more inclusive vacancy text. So I just saw a question popping up in the chat. I think Textio is a good tool to use for that. Then the second way is to really think about how people are applying at your company. And what most companies always have is a resume, a motivational letter, answering a few questions. But there's actually the most bias. I mean, if you're looking at a resume, for example, someone would make a resume on a Tony's wrapper, great work, 10 points for that person, because that's then you're already being biased by layout, but you're also being biased by photo or by the age of female that is on the resume. So it's up to us to take that away. So something that we are right now looking at is to eliminate resumes and motivation letters and start maybe working with either gamification, so that people are really playing games to gather a profile, or just asking a bunch of questions to gather the info that you need to have on seeing if someone could be a good fit on the first sight. But we can also provide the candidates with a template resume that you have made that they need to fill out. And this is all then to make sure everyone is applying in the same way, that there's no photos attached, etc., so that you're not being biased by those things. And then the third one is all about interviewing, but that's something we will head over next. So before heading over to that, let's first hear what Lucie is doing if it comes to screening candidates.
Thanks, Maybritt, and thanks for sharing the goodbye to resumes. It's really inspiring, and I believe we all could maybe take it into our companies. For Kiitos, in terms of screening process, we always want to showcase the culture and the inclusion practices we already have in place. So it all starts with the application form and the first email you send to the potential candidate. So if you are already successful in hiring diverse talent, show them, share their stories, include them to the hiring process, let them actually source with you for the candidates, invite them to the first screen calls. And if not, at least share your initiatives, how you think about bringing more diverse talent into the company, what diversity means to you, because actually it helps candidates to see that your company is thinking about it, wants to be inclusive or already is. And for some candidates, it can be also interesting to see that there is an option to join such programs, such initiatives, and being the change maker sounds appealing to many of them. And if we go to the next slide, there's one lesson I actually learned recently in Kiitos, and it's that it's truly important to be intentional in diverse and inclusive hiring. So we all have to make sure that internal teams are aligned with the new approach to recruitment, and it's not just the people team knowing it all, but you have all the hiring panel on one page. So we have actually 3 things that are being implemented at the moment to ensure that we all really are hiring inclusively and we bring the diverse talent into a workplace which is nice for them. So the unconscious bias training, we all have them, and sometimes it's hard to spot them. And the more diverse talent you bring to the company, the more they appear. So that's why having a training for unconscious biases, at least for the hiring panel, but ideally for the whole company, is something you should consider. Number 2 would be a hiring toolkit. So we have a hiring toolkit which includes a part about what diversity is important for us, what do we do for that, and also a section about unconscious bias. And last but not least, we also have a diversity guidelines, or you can call it diversity policy. It's not just for the compliance reasons, but it actually shows your team members and anyone else in your broader community that you as an organization care. It shows that the diverse talent, you want everyone to belong to the company, you want everyone to feel equal in your workplace. And also if something goes wrong, which can definitely happen, and there can be discrimination, there's process to help them and to support them to solve it. So these are my tips, and I think now back to the journey.
Thank you so much again, Maybritt and Lucie. The next step of the recruitment process is the selection process. So this step is all about choosing the right candidate. What do you look for when choosing the person? Which strategy is behind the choice? And most importantly, of course, how do you make sure you are being diverse? Take it away, Maybritt.
Hey, here I go again. So something that we are really focusing on during the selection process is culture add, because I really love this quote from Peter Drucker: "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And this is all about, you can have, as a company, you can have build the greatest strategies that they are, but in the end, the strategy is only the rule, the rules of the game you play, and culture is how the game's actually played. So besides focusing only on job fit, we're focusing on cultural add, because if you would go in the hunt for a cultural fit, you would all get the same people within the company. And you should hire the people that are adding something to your culture, because culture is something that is evolving every single time. And the better your company culture is, the sooner you achieve your goals. So Yeah, if we talk about our culture, we have actually 4 core values that we're using, which is outspoken, entrepreneurial, willful, makes you smile. And we believe that these 4 values are leading to success. So just to sum up what these values mean, so outspoken is all about being critical, share your opinion, don't hesitate to give people the feedback that they need. I think feedback is a really important thing to or good feedback culture is important to have within your culture, because without feedback you won't grow. Then willful is about doing things differently and don't choose always the easiest path. So this is something we're really experiencing within Tony's, that we like to do things differently. We sometimes choose 10 times to go to the right, while we should have maybe gone 1 time to the left. But it's like a bit of a trial and error here and there as well. And then entrepreneurial, which is all about being innovative, trying new things, constantly going for the extra mile. And then Makes You Smile is all about being positive, looking at the bright side of life, or sometimes a bit of being a bit naive. So what we are doing with these values, because these are really important for us and we really want people living and breathing these values, that we ask specific questions on these values in the interview. So for example, if we talk about entrepreneurial, we are asking about describe a situation in which you embrace a new system or process and how you're going to deal with that. If we talk about willful, then we're of course asking, okay, what did you do to be innovative or eliminate anything that wasn't working for you? And so we have like an entire guide of questions that people can ask. But then if you ask these questions, also important to review the answers that we're giving and how that will end in a fit. So on the next slide, I can show you some scorecards that we are using, with the note that these are under construction, because these are now very minimum, so to say. So we are focusing on knowledge and how the hiring manager and the other members of the panel feel that that's a good add and fit to the role. We're also asking about what they thought of the experience and expertise they're bringing, the values, of course, motivation, and if they would like to proceed with the candidate. So like I said, this is really something that is under construction with us. It should be maybe more specific if it comes to competence and the skill set that we have set in the impact profile. But maybe this is something that we can learn from Lucie. So Lucie, can you tell me what you're doing here?
Yeah, definitely. Let's look into that. So I think when selecting people, there's also one important thing, and that's that we shouldn't try to fit people into job description boxes and all the bullet points which are in the job descriptions, but rather look to the culture Maybritt mentioned, and also the competencies. So when you actually are hiring someone, try to just put the competencies over CVs, perfect career journeys, because by that we allow people who don't fit into those boxes of expectations to still join us and bring a lot of added value. And if we go to the next slide, there's one thing I always ask myself when I'm talking to candidates, because the more diverse talent you hire, the more differences you will see, and you and the whole hiring panel has to be more empathetic and respectful to those differences. So trying to avoid having expectations and judging people based on them, again, going back to the unconscious biases. So when you notice something negative, try to ask yourself, is it actually a part of the job competency the candidate doesn't fulfill, or is it my expectations that they are not meeting? And there are actually a few ways how you can also do that. So maybe a tiny story from hiring in Palestine again. So I actually struggled with some candidates who weren't turning their cameras on. And I was wondering, like, why this is happening? It's so unprofessional, you know, like we are so used to have the cameras turned on for almost all the meetings. And maybe I didn't mention it in the hiring guidelines we share with them, so they are not aware that they should actually turn on the cameras. So I was wondering for a long time, but then when I started addressing this issue with the candidates directly, I actually found out that for some women especially, it's not just connected to their religion. They don't want to wear the scarf at home the whole day, and you just meet them in the middle of the day, And imagine it's like 40 degrees out there and you have to wear the scarf. It's not super comfortable. So they just turn the camera off and they just join you for a call. Also in Gaza, where we hire, there is electricity only 8 hours per day. And imagine like you will probably run out of the electricity, or you have to save it for you or for any other household members. So you just save it by not turning on your cameras. And I would never know that without asking the candidates. So really addressing these issues with candidates with empathy, of course, trying to figure out like what's behind it. Number 2 would be the scorecards. Maybritt already mentioned and also showed you. So if you are building a scorecard for a specific role, always stick to the competencies and the skills. Forget about the number of years of experience, previous job titles, degree, if it's not necessary for the role, of course. And also another thing, you should define the areas for evaluation and questions you'll stick to during the interview process. So you ask the same questions and you evaluate the same things across the whole hiring process, and all the candidates actually have the fair approach. And the last tip would be a calibration call. We recently implemented that. And at the end of every hiring process, and also if it's needed in between the rounds, the whole hiring panel actually meets to discuss as a team and calibrate on why we choose to hire the candidate, what are the reasons to hire someone, or what are the reasons to actually reject someone. And this together with the scorecards and ratings, it helps us a lot to stay objective, to hire people based on their skills and the competencies, and not only based on our personal preferences. And yeah, that's it from my side for the selection process.
So then we have come to the final step of today's recruitment process. I hope you can all keep track of all the best practices that have been shared. And I also hope there's still appetite for the next important step, which is offer and hiring. This step is all about the benefits that you offer to your employees and how you can be more inclusive here to attract diverse talent. So Maybritt, last but not least, would you like to tell what Tony?
One more time, I will take it away for you. So yeah, like we said in the beginning, you know, attracting diverse people is one thing, but in the bottom you should be, or in the base you should be inclusive as well. So first step to achieve this is to look at your benefit package and how inclusive are you actually in there. So a few things that we are doing right now is we have unlimited holidays because we believe that time off shouldn't be about a standard amount of days. I mean, we're all different persons, and maybe you can do it with 20 days a year. Maybe I need 30 days a year. So yeah, this is quite flexible with us, and yeah, everything is about the time you need. That also goes for emergency leave or any other special leave you can think of. Then a second thing is that we have quite some bonuses in place, and one of them that I'm really passionate about is the sport bonus, because I'm really a fitness addict. So this sport bonus is not like a standard gym subscription that people are getting, but they can use it for that. But also here, there's a lot of flexibility in there, because I like to go to the gym, but maybe you're a running type, or you just want to be more active. So these sport bonus can be used for different type of things, to pay their gym subscription, but also maybe if you want to start being more active, to buy an active watch like Apple Watch, and you can expense that. And then something else we're doing, if it comes to babies, which we name Tiny Tonys, is that we find that there's still a lot of inequality going on between birth givers and partners. So we are giving every new parent 6 weeks of paid parental leave, because it's very important, of course, that if you have a newborn, that you can bond with it, you can be there for your family. And there's, of course, some new legislation for the Netherlands on the way. So the government has listened here, but we still believe that there's a lot of steps to take in there, which is leading us to the next slide, because within Tony's, we're currently reviewing our entire benefit package. So we're really thinking about anything that you can have benefits on, for example, maternity leave, and really see what kind of employee do we want to be there, where are we going to raise the bar. And we feel that every benefit that we have should go back to being serious about people and that they feel inclusive. So a few other things that we are currently thinking about are introducing flexible public holidays. So for example, if you are not celebrating Christmas because you're coming from another country where they don't do Christmas, then you can swap the Christmas days around for a public holiday that is more common to you, or at least in line with your traditions. Something else that we're thinking about as well is also, if we talk about maternity leave, paternity leave, how can we get it to more equal levels? So should we, I don't know, have 12 weeks as a standard for paternity leave, and then 16 weeks for all birth givers as a standard. And then third one is to have flexible work location while working remotely and those kind of things. But we're also looking at, what if you have family abroad? Then it would be also cool to just go there for 1 or 2 months and work from there to spend some more time with your family, and that you don't have to sit here at home and missing them. So if it comes to benefit, that's what we're looking at. But we, as you mentioned in the beginning, we're also quite innovative if it comes to our contract. So this is our employment agreement. So it's just one page, completely in Tony style, a bit, yeah, it seems like a, yeah, I don't know, just a fun, weird contract, but actually there's everything in here that you need to know, but it's just the basics. So the name, where you're going to work, how many hours, what the probation period is, and some other cool benefits that that we're having. And this is always well received, and also what we are known for. So I would definitely recommend, if you can shorten your contract, definitely do. And if you need some tips and tricks for that, just reach out, and I'm more than happy to help how we got to this contract. Then if people have signed this contract, that's great. Then it's also about how to keep, you can go to the next one. Then it's also about how to keep those people within your company. So something that we are doing twice a year is a people scan. So in this people scan, we are focusing on how people are feeling within the job. So we're talking about job fit, and besides that, also cultural add. And the outcome will lead to identify where the potential is within our company. So we are first focusing always on the culture add, because that's something that people really should have to be at least successful within the company. And then we're also looking at job fit. So it can be indeed that people are being a high potential that can grow to a leadership role, or maybe more special role. But it can also be that we do see that there's a culture add, but there's not a job fit, which then for us is a sign that the person is just not on the right seat, but that they are valuable for us. So we're then going to look at other positions that they might fulfill where they can be more successful in. But it can also be that there's no culture add and no job fit at all, and that we might need to say goodbye to each other. And by using this people scan, we are really keeping track of if we have the right people in the right place within Tony's. So yeah, one last time, I would like to hand it over to Lucie.
Also, very quickly about the offer and hiring stage from Kiitos side. So really cool to see Tony's benefits, and it's nice to see that we are heading a similar direction. So we actually already offer the part-time employment and remote and flexible working hours. So this is something which definitely supports parents with kids, caregivers, and anybody who cannot commute, doesn't want to commute, lives in another country. So these are the benefits which I definitely want to highlight and encourage you to think about. They are not easy to implement, but they are really bringing a lot of value. The transferable public holidays, we have colleagues who are swapping the holidays for the religious ones here in Europe, switching for, let's say, Muslim holidays or any other. So this is working. This is really appreciated by the team. But of course, it doesn't end here. So more to come. I really love the buckets Maybritt mentioned. So you don't stick only to a gym membership, but you actually extend the offer to something else. So this is about the offer and the benefits. And one last thing I want to mention before we go to Q&As is that working with feedback from interviews in the other stages is really important. So the offer was accepted, you have a new hire, that's great, but it doesn't end there. You really have to think about what's next. How will the reboarding and onboarding and the growth journey with you look like for the candidate? So because you met the person many times, different people met them, you saw a lot of things which really impressed you. You saw things which are maybe not aligned with your company culture, with principles you have in place. And maybe there are also some things which the person should improve because they don't fit into the one box of the job description. So you can actually use the feedback and share it with the person when they join you during the onboarding program. And you can set the 30, 60, 90-day plan and also the growth plan using this feedback and building on that. It actually helps you to align with the company values of the person, with the personal values. And also it helps the person to feel more included in the team, and it helps them to fit in faster. So that would be the very last tip from my side, and back to Book.
Thank you so much, both. So this is where today's roadmap ends. However, as I think both Lucie and Maybritt already mentioned, it does not actually end here. If you really want to embed diversity and inclusion within your workforce, there are many more steps that have to be taken into considerations, like the one you see here. However, that might be for another webinar. Yeah, so we would like to go through the Q&A now. We don't have that much time anymore. But please, like, I already saw that a lot of questions have been answered by Lucie in the chat. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, as I'm anyway here, I would like to kick it off with a question. I heard so many times already, like, it's trial and error and seeing what works. So were there also any failures within the company? Any things that you tried to introduce but that didn't work out? Maybe, I don't know, who wants to start off?
Okay, I can maybe start off. There were a lot of failures, of course, a lot of mistakes, a lot of experimenting. So maybe just to name two of them, I think. So one I already mentioned actually is that the lesson learned was that we need to align the internal team on what inclusive practices in hiring means. So what happened to us, we had a really one bad interview last stage when the candidate didn't feel welcome, and it was only because of our biases. So that's when we saw the need for the guidelines, the hiring toolkit, and also other processes, the calibration call as well, and a training for the hiring panel. So that would be one thing. And then another one was actually that we were super excited about getting more diverse talent, and we decided to open a branch in Bolivia. But we weren't ready for that. There were no processes, and we hire remotely, so we have people from all around the world. It doesn't matter where you are based, but we wanted to be official in Bolivia. And we did a pilot there, but unfortunately we didn't put much attention to that. So then we ended up with only a few candidates, and we decided to postpone this, pause the branch building activities, and now we'll see if we ever go back to that, or we'll just stick to the remote setup for anybody, and we won't build any more branches. So these would be two from my side.
Yeah, maybe one from my side is that we implemented a few things on having a more diverse and inclusive hiring process, but then in the end we noticed that our manager are maybe not there yet. So yeah, it's just stupid, but we should have trained them earlier to be also aware of their biases, but also how to do a proper interview and review those interviews as well.
Thank you so much. It's all about improving, right? And trying out. I'm just wondering if there are any questions still. You can also unmute yourself and ask a question if you want to, or any unanswered questions yet in the chat. I think there's also, I heard a lot about, I can ask another question here. I heard a lot about blind hiring, that companies have these practices. Did you, Tony's and Kiitos, did you take that into consideration for your companies?
Yes, that's what we are discussing right now, to really move away from all personal data that people need to give when they're applying, but also like so maybe gamification is a super cool thing to do, because the only thing you will get is the results of the game someone played, which will then indeed form the profile. You have no other insights on that person, how they look like, what their names, etc. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're working on, and I think that's a very good step to at least hire more diverse people, because you literally don't know who's behind the application.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So we didn't do any action steps towards this, but I definitely love the idea. So we are right now also looking into our application form, how to make it more inclusive, and how not to ask for details which are actually useless for us. And we don't even choose people based on, because we are really sticking to the competencies and skills. So yeah, definitely like blind CVs are, I think, the good direction. So yeah.
Super nice to hear. I see one more question in the chat, and I think then we have to close up. Geertje is asking, did you ever encounter challenges on convincing people internally on the importance of diversity?
Yes, it's really something that I'm experiencing, because when I talk to people about diversity, they always say like, yeah, but we have 36 nationalities, right? So we are being diverse. And I think that really relates to the definition that we gave earlier in this discussion, that it's not about only nationalities. It's also about from what backgrounds are you female, are you male, have you studied, do you have kids, etc. So it's so much more than that. And I think that's the biggest thing, that people don't know what diversity and inclusion actually is. And if you don't know that, then it's really hard to convince people. So I think it just starts with having an idea of what it actually means and what you can do.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like right now it's a buzzword, and we all hear about diversity, inclusion, and we have to be all diverse. So people really have like distorted idea of what it is actually to be diverse and inclusive, because basically any of us actually falls into like an underrepresented group, or we all are really different. It's not about the nationalities, it's not about the gender, it's about really tiny things, different thoughts we have, different beliefs we have. So I think really talking about it with the team is important, trying to change their perception of that. In Kiitos, I'm happy to not facing this, because we work with the underrepresented communities. We have most of the people based in Palestine, which is really like a diverse talent, and it's super diverse even within the region and within the country. But in my previous companies, I had to really like work hard on changing people's mindset. It takes a lot of discussions. It takes a lot of, like obstacles you have to overcome, but I think it's really worth it. And then when people see the results, and when they see that it really, really helps also the business, not only because sometimes the leadership wants to see the business perspective. They want to hear like how it will help the business and the numbers we have. You can definitely find those and try to mention them when you are trying to sell the diverse hiring and any other practices. So yeah, good luck everyone with that.
So I think your question has been answered now, Geertje. Yeah, I think it's time now. So I just want to thank Maybritt and Lucie one more time for all the best practice you have been sharing today, and to share all your knowledge with all these people here. Yeah, I hope you all find some great inspiration, and we are very aware that there was shared a lot here. So we have made a very handy sheet, including all the initiative and best practices, and also some additional resources that we will be sending out to you within the next couple of days, including the recording and the presentation. Also, if you want to reach out to us, you can send an email to me, book@bcorporation.eu, and then I'm gonna call it a day. Thank you so much, everyone.